A very good evening. Welcome to State of Business on our television. I'm Ashing Sani Veerasinghe. Let's have a look at the headlines first. Sri Lanka's GDP is projected to contract by 1.7% this year, with positive signs of recovery next year. 5,000 rupee allowance for livelihood needs in the curfew-imposed areas in the Western Province to be made available soon. News in detail. Central Bank releasing its report on recent economic developments, highlights of 2020 and prospects for 2021 states that the economic growth is projected to contract by around 1.7% in 2020 compared to 2.3% growth recorded last year. The CBSL also predicts that the economy is expected to grow by around 5% in next year. According to the report, the Sri Lankan economy contracted by 1.6% in the first quarter of 2020 year-on-year as per the provisional estimates of the Department of Census and Statistics. In the meantime, it was noted that the external sector, which was severely affected at the initial stages of the pandemic, marked a notable rebound with an improvement in the trade balance, a revival of workers' remittances, a stable exchange rate, and a reasonable level of official reserves. The external sector stability was supported by the restrictions placed on non-essential imports and selected outflows as well as low global petroleum prices. Meanwhile, the external current account deficit, which is expected to narrow to 1.5% of GDP in 2020, is estimated to increase to 2.4% of GDP in 2021 and decline gradually to 1.2% of GDP by 2025. The CBSL report further added that the government is expected to achieve a budget deficit of 4% of GDP by 2025, along with corresponding improvements in the current account and primary balances. Inflation is expected to be maintained within the desired range of 4 to 6% over the medium term. The COVID-19 count in Sri Lanka has exceeded 11,000, while the total number of COVID-19 recoveries has surpassed the 5,000 mark. In the meantime, the PCR test of a 27-year-old male in Panathur area who has committed suicide have been tested positive for COVID-19. 397 new COVID-19 cases were identified in the country yesterday, including 356 close contacts and 41 inmates of the quarantine centres. With these updates, the Minuwangoda and Paliyagoda cluster has surpassed 7,500. In the meantime, majority of the new cases were detected from the Gampaha district yesterday. Another 164 cases were reported this evening, while 43 among them are from quarantine centres and 121 are close contacts of the previously identified patients. In this juncture, the quarantine curfew imposed on the Western Province was extended until 5 a.m. on November 9th, Monday, concerning the rise of COVID-19 cases. On a positive note, 344 persons who have recovered from the COVID-19 have been discharged from the hospitals today, increasing the country's recovery tally to 5,249. According to Health Promotion Bureau, the country's number of PCR tests carried out in a day has been increased significantly. Health Promotion Bureau shows that 11,999 PCR tests have been carried out last Saturday and that 11,713 PCR tests have been carried out yesterday. In the meantime, all tourist lodges and camping sites under the Department of Wildlife Conservation are temporarily closed for the public until further notice. This comes as a measure to restrict the spread of COVID-19 outbreak within the country. But the travellers who had previously booked the aforementioned facilities will be informed in due time regarding alternative dates, the department said. Furthermore, High Commission of India based in Colombo informed that an auxiliary staff of the High Commission of India based in Colombo has tested positive for COVID-19 yesterday. Currently, the person is undergoing treatment at a designated Sri Lankan government medical facility. Moreover, the World Health Organization chief Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus has self-quarantined after his close contact has tested positive for coronavirus. He informed about this late Sunday but added he had no symptoms. Moreover, the BBC News reported that the Duke of Cambridge, Prince William, has contracted COVID-19 earlier this year, as palace sources have told the BBC. According to the Sun newspaper, which first reported the story, Prince William has kept his diagnosis private to avoid alarming the nation. Chairman of the Presidential Task Force for Economic Revival and Poverty Alleviation, Basil Rajapaksa, said that 5,000 rupee allowance for livelihood needs in the curfew-imposed areas in the Western Province will be made available this time too. During a meeting at the Temple Trees this morning, he also assured that the households which have been under quarantine will be provided a pack of dry rations to the value of 10,000 rupees.
මේ දිස්ත්‍රික්ක තුන මේ වෙනකොට සතියකට වැඩිය ඇඳිරි නීතිය දැම්ම නම් රජය තීන්දුව කරලා තියෙන්නේ ඒ පවුලකට අපි මෙතෙක් මීට කලින් වරා දෙකක් දීපු රුපියල් 5000 දීමනාව දෙන්න. ඒ අනුව කළුතර ගම්පහ සහ කොළඹ දිස්ත්‍රික්ක තුනේ සියලුම ඒ සුදුසුකම් ලත් පවුල් වලට රුපියල් 5000 ලබා දිය යුතු තියෙනවා. මේ රෝගී ලක්ෂණ ආපු ගමන් ඉස්පිරිතාලට දුවන්න යන්න එපා කියන එක පැහැදිලිව උපදෙස් දෙන්න කියලා තියෙනවා. ඒ අය ගෙදරම ඉඳලා සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශයෙන් දීපු ඒ අංකයට ටෙලිෆෝන් කරාම උහුන්න ඇවිල්ලා PCR ටෙස්ට් එක එතනදි කරලා අවශ්‍ය නම් ගිලන් රථයකින්ම ඉස්පිරිතාලයකට එක්ක ආවි. නැතුව මේ කට්ටිය පොදු වාහන වලින් හෝ පෞද්ගලික වාහන වලින් ශනිකව යන්න එපා කියන උපදේශ තමයි දීලා තියෙන්නේ. ඊයේත් බොහොම අමාරුවෙන් මේ වැඩි මතයක් තිබුණේ මුළු රටටම ඇඳිරි නීතිය දාලා සම්පූර්ණයෙන් ලොක්ඩවුන් කරන්න කියලා. හැබැයි මේ බොහොම අමාරුවෙන් මේ විදියට බස්නාහිර පළාතට මේවා කරගත්තේ බොහොම අමාරුවෙන්.
Stay tuned for more news after this short break. Welcome back after the break. State Minister of Money, Capital Markets and Public Enterprises Reform Ajit Nivard Cabral issuing a special statement dispels undue fears on Sri Lanka's debt servicing capacity. Accordingly, he further says that the expansion of the fiscal deficit and the increase in debt levels in 2020 should not be generalized as a prolonged debt distress, but rather as a one-off deviation from the clear fiscal consolidation path that has been articulated in the new government's policy framework. State Minister Cabral said that with the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, all countries, including Sri Lanka, observed a contraction in economic activity, reduction in foreign exchange earnings, decrease in revenue collection, and increase in health and welfare-related expenditure. He further states that the expansion of the fiscal deficit and the increase in debt levels in 2020 should not be generalized as a prolonged debt distress. Cabral added that in terms of growth performance, Sri Lanka is once again set to embark on a growth path following the setback in the first half of 2020 caused by the pandemic. He noted that the expected revitalization of state-owned enterprises, together with the private sector-led growth projects, would also revert the Sri Lankan economy to the high growth path that was observed prior to 2015, whereby annual growth rates of over 6.5% were regularly recorded. Moreover, Cabral also said that Sri Lankan authorities are currently negotiating a loan of $700 million from the China Development Bank, which is expected to be at an interest rate and terms of repayment that are significantly more favorable than the $1 billion sovereign bond that was just repaid. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka states that the headline inflation as measured by the year-on-year change in the Colombo Consumer Price Index remained unchanged at 4% in October 2020, while food inflation decreased to 10% in October 2020 from 11.5% in September 2020. Accordingly, the non-food inflation increased to 1.3% in last month from 0.9% in September 2020. The change in the CCPI measured on an annual average basis decreased marginally by 1 decimal point to 4.6% in October 2020 from 4.7% in September 2020. Monthly change of CCPI recorded at 0.1% in October 2020 was mainly driven by the price increases observed in terms of the food category such as big onion, rice and turmeric powder. However, prices of fresh fruits, chicken and eggs recorded declines during the month. The core inflation, which reflects the underlying inflation in the economy, increased marginally to 3% in October 2020 from 2.9% in September 2020. However, annual average core inflation declined to 3.4% in October 2020 from 3.6% in September 2020. Export Development Board called on the export community to capitalize on their high-quality products and ethical practices to reap the maximum of the European Union GSP Plus and use it as a game changer to pivot to related business sectors in the post-COVID era. EDB Chief Prabhash Subasinghe last week said that exporters should capitalize on the high quality and strong ethical practices as a key strength for Sri Lanka while always respecting the sustainability practices. EDB Chief Subasinghe made these observations addressing his views at a webinar titled GSP Plus for Enhanced Market Access organized by the International Trade Center in collaboration with the Department of Commerce. The EDB chief also said that Sri Lankan exporters and EU importers have a natural hedge thanks to the GSP Plus. Over 6,000 product lines are eligible from Sri Lanka for the EU GSP Plus concession, creating a cost advantage to the European importers. Regaining of the EU GSP Plus in 2017 has direct bearing on countries' exports as Sri Lanka's exports to EU increased from $3.1 billion in 2016 to $3.5 billion last year. He also added that the EU is the Sri Lanka's single largest trading market and therefore Sri Lankan exporters must use the GSP Plus to its fullest advantage and build from there on in the next few years. In addition, Subasinghe said that increasing investments from EU for export manufacturing, particularly for high-tech apparel, personal protective equipment, electronic and electrical, rubber tires, automobile parts, boat building, value-added agriculture and pharmaceuticals is key. One of the state banks, People's Bank, was awarded as the Trade Deal of the Year at the prestigious ADB Trade Finance Program Awards 2020, organized jointly with Standard Chartered Bank. The ADB TFP Awards recognize leading partner banks of ADB, and the aforesaid award was one of the key awards at the TFP Awards selected from the leading banks in Asia. The Asian Development Bank recognized People's Bank by awarding it the Trade Deal of the Year at the prestigious ADB Trade Finance Program Awards 2020. The award was received subsequent to a rigorous independent evaluation which takes into account multiple factors such as how the particular transaction impacted the country, how it helped the client to improve their business, and how TFP contributed to the success of the transaction. TFP provides guarantees and loans to banks to support international trade. Backed by ADB's AAA credit rating, the program works with over 200 partner banks in Asia to provide companies with the financial support they need to engage in import and export activities. Since 2009, ADB's TFP has supported more than 12,000 small and medium-sized businesses across developing Asia in sectors ranging from commodities and capital goods to medical supplies and consumer goods. People's Bank, which has one of the largest footprints across the country, kept trade routes in Sri Lanka open by supporting its customers to transact with counterparties across the globe even during the COVID-19 crisis. The bank enhanced its ability to provide trade finance facilities to customers by joining the Asian Development Bank's Trade Finance Program in 2011. We'll be back with stock updates after the short break. Welcome back after the break. The trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a negative note today. The all-share price index dropped 13.01 points to close at 5,713.58 and the S&P SL 20 dropped 19.26 points to close at 2,262.94. The turnover was 1.2 billion rupees and over 70 million shares were traded. Up next are Forex rates. And that's all the news for today. Join us tomorrow with State of Business at the usual time. Until then, take care. Good night.